Let's see if we have any juice in the battery. The alternator is disconnected, so there's no alternator light and it's not going to charge, but there we go. Well, welcome back to Living with Classic, and right before a big, over there, a big rainstorm. So I want to get my regular daily drive 1975 XJ6 in the workshop for some work. You know what's like, the daily is always the one that suffers a bit with, if it works well enough to drive every day, and maybe you sometimes don't fix all, the little small things. However, I've decided to take this car on a big road trip in 2 weeks to the big summer meet for Jaguar, which is, I'm not sure distance, but it's like a 9 hour drive one way there. I was going to take the XJ12, but you've seen in previous videos, I don't want to risk it with those issues I don't know with timing and all of that. But this thing is pretty much good to go, but I'm taking the time now to fix a few things. It is, it's a bit rough because I do daily and things, but for instance, one fuel tank has never worked, no, it's leaked. I have a spare one, so we're going to replace that, not only for the capacity, because they're not really that big, each of the tanks, but also for a spare fuel pump. A carbureted XJ6 like this has 2 fuel pumps, and it's nice to have a spare one that just a push of a button you can start using, so that is good. One thing I want to do, I also just picked up a new alternator for it, because the last one, last week, it short-circuited, so it's disconnected right now. It drains the battery overnight and it won't charge, so just picked up a new one. They're not that pricey, so that will be a nice security thing to have. And then there are a couple of small things. I actually want to use some cosmetic things. There is a little bit of paint issue on that side. I just ordered paint for this car with the original paint coats. I hope it's going to be fine, and it should arrive in a few days. So if we have time, I do want to fix that paint. But now I'm going to fire it up, drive into the workshop, and then to get the fuel tank, you got to take the bumper off, side cover, and a lot of things to get fuel tank out on one of these. Let's see if we have any juice in the battery. The alternator is disconnected, so there's no alternator light and it's not going to charge, but there we go. Still does run. And yeah, voltmeter will stay in the red. So I think mileage wise, I do daily drive the same, but I do work from home or around my workshop, so I won't do that much mileage. So, but I think this trip will be probably 2 months or more of my regular driving, which is quite a bit. Oh yeah, one more thing I'm going to have a look at. Left ball joint up front, I think either needs greasing or it needs replacing. I have reshimmed it at one point, so I have a spare one, so we might replace that if it doesn't feel like it gets good with some grease in it. But yeah, should be pretty good. I'm really just excited to get another fuel tank. It's one of those jobs I wanted to do for a long time, but when you daily drive something, you often seem to, at least in my opinion, you're okay with certain things not working. Other thing I want to fix is the cigarette lighter socket. So we have 12 volt. I do have a USB charging with some radio, but it would be nice to have extra charging for devices. And there we go. Yeah, it's a bit half warm, so the 80 is starting to turn off, but it's also, there we go, rev it out a bit. But now let's have a look at the fuel tank. Got the rear end up in the air here, and it's this tank that's bad. So to get to it, showing this several times on different cars, but it's quite simple. You just remove the bumper. Yeah, that's there. You have bolts there on the side, and then you have bolts here. I'm missing a couple. See if I can find some spare ones. You get these side panels off, and then it's just a couple of fittings to get the tank down. And then you have here as well. I'll get some lights so you guys can see better. to get all of this out. But I'm going to start a little bit, and then I'll let you guys join in when we have the bumper off and the lower cover. Rear bumper is off, and that lower bowl is over there. It's in really good shape, that one. I have a tiny bit of surface rust on the other side, but that one's really good. Just going to clean it off and rust proof again, and we'll clean up in here and just spray some rust proofing in here. But for a year-round driven car, this really isn't too bad. Took the spare wheel out and the cover here, and that fuel hose is brand new there with the plug-ins. That's no problem at all. And I have a rebuilt pump and everything I'll put back in there. Just got cleaned up. This is just dirt and debris. I mean, I use this car for everything. There's some hay and stuff from horses and things in here, but no real problem. And here is one of the bolts for the tank, and then we have some ones in here, and we're going to see sometimes the tanks will drop as they are, and like I tried to show before without the light, sometimes you need to pull the filler neck up, but we'll see what I have to do. But I'll show you guys tank removals several times, so I'll remove this tank and we'll get ready to put the other one in, but I'll probably wait till tomorrow. But so I've, you know, it's getting late here, but I will try and get this tank out tonight at least. Bit of progress has been made. The old tank is out, and I have just look up in here and rust proofed and done things. So that's all good. It's just some surface rust, but it has rust treatment on it and then some cavity wax. So that's really good. Here is, I mean, it's an old car, so it's been welded here. And here's just some screws sticking out, and I just don't want those to puncture the tank, so I'm not sure if that's what's caused the old tank to leak or who did this, but we'll cut that down, make that nice. And then I've done a couple of things, too small. Since I had this out, I've just painted in here. It's not a perfect match, but I haven't gotten the other paint yet, but this is what I used, if you remember, last winter when I did some things on the inside of the doors. So once it dries, it's a pretty good match, and when this is polished as well. And it's just inside the fuel filler. It would just look a little nicer. And then ever since I've had the car, there's been a tiny bit of sort of speed holes back here. I'll do something about it at some point, but it's not really too bad. So I've just covered them up a little bit and put some fresh paint on there because that was just bare metal there. And that's really about it. So the other tank is sitting over here. It is a Series 3 tank I got used. So I've had to be a little bit creative. Plugged up the vent there because this is a 75 car and it vents through the gas filler cap instead. Plugged the return there, and then the feed line there is a little bit bigger, 1/2 inch instead. So I have some converters and things I'm going to use, and that should be fine. I've also flushed the tank out. It's been sitting for a while, so there's a tiny bit of surface rust inside, but not too bad. I will put a pre-filter in line before that pump here. And then I have a filter up there as well, which I'll replace now before continuing. But this needs to dry a little bit. I am just going to put the other tank in. That's really not a difficult job, and then we'll see how long this paint takes to dry. Otherwise we'll start just working on things like the alternator and other small things. Tank is pretty much fully installed. When it was out, I just flushed it with a bit of water, which you can do no problems at all. It's been sitting for a while, and the old tank sender had rusted a bit and there was crust from that. So I have a tank sender in it, a different one, and now I used just some old gasoline I pulled from a barn find. Keep the stuff just for these sort of things, and I flushed it through, so pour through that. And the last thing I'm going to do now is just flush through a bit of gasoline de-icer antifreeze that you use in the winter. That also removes water, and then we will run fresh fuel, and when we do that we'll also have de-icer in there, and then if any water is left, that will go out. But the tank has sat in the sun for 2 days and aired out, so should be no problems at all. Filler is back in place and everything painted around. That looks nice. So I'll flush that through, put the drain plug in. We're going to connect up the other fuel pump and all of that. And then we'll add some fresh fuel and see how it goes. We're all plumbed in here, and I have a second pump in there. Let me see, I'm putting a shadow on you guys. And I've also put a pre-filter there, just to, to see what anything comes out of that tank. And then I have a filter over there as well. But that one I can replace really easily on the road. And let's turn on the ignition, see if that pump works. I have checked that there's power going there at least, but not plugged in the pump. We have this out here for the right switch. Yeah, that is pumping. Let us see. Not really sure why it's not shutting off yet. I think I have it connected up backwards actually. Give me a second. Reconnected the pumps correctly now, because before she was pumping from one tank to another. And yeah, we don't have the alternator light because we haven't gotten to the alternator yet. But we are on the right tank now, which should be around E. Has about 10 liters in it. And then I heard a click of the pump. See, we're going up a little bit further because somewhere less than half a tank on the left tank. So we'll stay on the right and let's see if it fires up. There we go. It's running. Oh, let's see how that goes. I have 10 more liters of fuel I can add in a little bit, and I can see if that fuel gauge moves a little bit further up. Can you guys see that? There we go. This is right above empty right now. The troubleshooting later, and yeah, because I'm not getting a reading on there, it just reads empty. Check the wiring, so I grounded the wire to it, and the gauge got up to max. Removed the sender, and now it's set so it would be max. And if I do that, if you have a look here, yeah, that does go up to, well, almost max, but pretty close. So that works. And when I was pulling it out, there was quite a bit of fuel dripping from it. So I think I have a hole in the float. I have a spare float from the other sender, which was completely corroded here. But I think the float is fine. So I'm going to swap the float over and then we'll try again. You have a look inside there. There's the fuel level of the float. So we have somewhere around a little less than half a tank or something. And this did read a little low. So that's fine. We'll put this all back together. Can you see the float there? Put it all back together and see if we have a reading. And there we go. It's climbing. Let's see how far it climbs. So when I had it maxed out, it wouldn't read full on this side. So that's good to know. It reads a little low on this side. And yeah, I'm just going to stop probably just below half a tank. Makes sense to put 20 liters in there, and it's a 47 liter tank. And that is excellent. And we can swap between tanks. I think we actually have about the same in both tanks. Really good. All that works. And we have a working right-hand fuel tank and gauge and everything, which is something I wanted to do for a long time, but just, starting up your own business, running, I just really haven't had the time and been driving the car. And just going short distances, one tank has been fine, but going long road trip, you kind of want the capacity. Also, I could spend a lot of money and get new tanks, and I can't really afford that at the moment. So I'm glad I was able to get hold of a good used tank for about 1/10 the cost of a new tank. And I had a spare sender unit laying around, and now I had a float from a different sender unit. So it's just sort of grabbing what you have and making it work. And I do enjoy doing that sometimes as well, especially on this car, which really has more sentimental value than anything else. It's just a good, nice car I like to drive. But now it at least has both tanks, which is really nice. This will be it for part 1. In part 2, we'll do some bodywork and paint on the side. There is this crack over there in the paint, and I just got an email that the paint I ordered has left the dispatchers of DHL, so I should get it in the next couple days. So I'm going to start on the bodywork actually while the car's still up in the air, because it just makes it easier. And you know, the sanding and getting that around. I also have a little bit of a small sandblaster we may use to get rid of some rust if needed be, some surface rust there. And then, you know, filler and everything, and get primed and ready. Then we have the alternator to replace, which is just pretty straightforward, like for like. So I might do it off camera, might do it on camera, haven't really decided. Then we have the cigarette light to have a look at, grease the rear end while it's up in the air as well, grease the front end, and check all the fluids and everything, and we should be good to go. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Till next time, I'm Adam. This is Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.